Good morning, and thank you for joining this online virtual service for the First Unitarian Church of Alton on the 18th day of April in 2021. I am Robin Berkeley. I am president of this congregation, and I also serve as a worship associate, which is my role for today. Today in the pulpit, I am thrilled to introduce you to my dear friend, Kathy Daus, who is also my colleague at SIUE. She's passionate about the environment and sustainability, and I thought she'd make a fabulous contribution to our services with a sermon I heard her share with the congregation at her own church in New Song in Edwardsville. More on that in a little bit. The First Unitarian Church of Alton is a small lay-led congregation located in Alton, Illinois. Due to the pandemic, our services are now virtual, and past and recent services can be located on our church YouTube page. We hope to see you at our Castle on the Hill sometime soon when we can return to worship together face to face. In the meantime, we welcome everyone to this virtual home of comfort, spirit, justice, and hope. We are Unitarian Universalists. We begin our worship with a prelude by our accompanist, Joy Heft. If you have a candle nearby, please join me as I light my own and recite our unison words for the chalice lighting. We hallow this time together by kindling the lamp of our heritage. I really like this candle. It was a gift from a friend. It's geranium and lavender. And she just surprised me with it the other day just for the fun of it. So I'll share it with you today. Our opening prayer is written by Barbara J. Peskin and is number 416 in the Gray Hymnal. For the beauty of the earth, the spinning blue-green ball, yes. Gaia, mother of everything, we walk gently across your back to come together in this place, to remember how we can live, to remember who we are, to create how we will be. Gaia, our home, the lap in which we live, welcome us. Today, I decided to wear my element sweatshirt, wind, water, fire, and earth. Not sure which direction I'm pointing at here as I'm looking at this in mirror here. Um, and because this is an important part of our planet and the elements that ground us. This is some of the foundational work of pagans and Wicca and earth-based religions like Native American faith traditions and things of that nature. Um, and and I thought it was appropriate for today's sermon. Um, Being environmental stewards is an important part of our UU values, obviously. And it's something we all value. It's something we all talk about regularly. Kathy's approach to the concept of spirituality and sustainability really beautifully aligns with our principles in her message today. The two principles in particular that resonated for me were number 2, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, and number 5, respect for the interdependent web of all existence. Now, number 5, principle 5, is pretty obvious. We're connected to the earth, we're dependent on each other, and as a community, we understand when another suffers, we suffer. When Mother Earth is struggling, it has a tremendous impact on the people and the animals that inhabit the planet. The rainforest effect is a real phenomenon, and we have a responsibility to properly steward the planet for ourselves and for our posterity. The second principle may seem a little less obvious, but Kathy does a wonderful job of pointing out in her sermon that access to nature, the privilege of being able to hike and enjoy time like that out in nature, is actually a matter of social justice. And let me explain how. For example, an individual who works 3 jobs doesn't always have the time for day hikes on the weekends or a vacation to a national park. They can't afford the equipment from REI or the time away from home. You would think that because nature is free, that it is something that we all have access to. But in fact, if we have the time and the means and the energy to do so, then yes, that's true, but that's not always the case. This is why it is essential that we recognize that income inequality greatly impacts sustainable behaviors. The poor can't afford to purchase environmentally friendly products and recycle and eat organic. While sustainability seems like an easy goal to attain, it still smacks of privilege when I can say I ordered from my organic produce company yesterday, or only feed my kid organic meats and vegetables. When a box of McDonald's fries can cost $1, but a container of organic fruit is $5, which do you think will get purchased more readily? So our responsibility as stewards is to be good role models, right? To do our part and also work to help others towards sustainability by fighting for income inequality and really walking gently on this planet. So think about those two principles as we think about Kathy's sermon today. Now, in terms of stewardship, we offer this gentle reminder that this community of faith is supported only by your giving. We need each other, and in times of trial, we need each other even more. I challenge you all to not only consider stewardship to be financial donations, but to also ask people to donate time and talent to help our church. If you can't write a check, can you donate some time to help this church community? Can you volunteer to help clean up the grounds? Can you help make repairs when they are needed? Can you call housebound members who would appreciate a call now and then, and who to know that we still care about them? Please donate as you can with your time, talent, and your treasure. All are needed for our church to thrive. You can mail your financial gift to First Unitarian Church, P.O. Box 494, Alton, Illinois 62002. Or you can give electronically by searching for the First Unitarian Church of Alton on the Givelify app and via the link on our webpage. As well, you can give through PayPal if you prefer. If you're willing to donate your time and talent, please, please, please contact a board member and let us know what you can do to help. Give what you will, what you are able to do, for you are a generous people. And thank you. If you know it, please join with me in our offering prayer. May this offering equip us to inspire love and seek justice. Today, I'm going to forego our reading because Kathy's sermon contains several relevant and meaningful prayers and readings as she makes the case for the importance of sustainability in our expression of spirituality. She does a great job of balancing the various faith perspectives, Judeo-Christian, earth-based religions such as Wicca, pagan, and Native American perspectives, Hinduism, Quaker. While she has her own belief system as a Christian, her reference to the Bible is that of stories and texts to help us understand that the concept of God or Goddess or Mother Earth or Gaia extends across faith traditions. She is by no means a biblical literalist and has read extensively across different traditions as she has endeavored to explore what she believes and why. I'm blessed to consider her my friend and colleague, and I know you will enjoy her personable approach and important message as it aligns to our UU values and principles.
Welcome, everyone. I will try to block out that annoying light there. I actually need it because I'm going to be reading different things as we go through. So this feels a bit odd to me. The last time I did a version of this was at my own church, and I had people introduce me. And so I'm introducing myself. I am Kathy Daus. I am a professor at SIUE in the psychology department. Robin and I have known each other for several years, and we do both research as well as life together. We are in our tribe together. I teach in the Industrial Organizational Psychology program. I'm the program director, and one of the classes that I developed about 5 years ago was Psychology of Sustainable Behavior. Largely because I saw a void in our curriculum, and I wanted to try and develop the 400 level class. So it's an upper level undergraduate class. Graduate students can also take it. As well, I am a long-term member of the Glen Carbon Cool Cities Committee. Not member, I'm one of the 5 people that comprises that committee, well over 10 years now. And our goal is to, overall, broadly speaking, is to reduce carbon emissions in the area. It's loosely sponsored by the Sierra Club. So I have a passion for both sustainability and, broadly speaking, spirituality. Faith throughout the course of my life has always been quite important to me. And I'd like to think that I'm widely read across a variety of faith perspectives. The original version of this was developed for my own church, which is New Song in Glen Carbon. It's a non-denominational Christian church. So I did delete some of the upfront slides that focus on Christianity. There's still several there because I want to show in these upfront slides that across broad faith traditions, we see support. Really doesn't matter what a person's faith tradition is, you could find support within that tradition for the general idea that one of the things that we are to do while we're here on life is to take care of the earth that we've been given. And that whatever your perspective is, that we inhabit, that we are borrowing, that we have been blessed with. There are a lot of ways to use this language. So again, I wanted to set the stage up front for the perspective and from where I'm coming. And I'll also note that when I developed this slideshow, I borrowed from some slides that were publicly available. And so I try to, on the slides where they're not necessarily directly verbatim, because pretty much every slide I've edited and added to it or cut material, but I try to give credit. Try to be very conscientious about not plagiarizing and not giving credit for others' material. So I titled this slide, Honoring Mother Earth, God's Creation. The comma was not meant to say that Mother Earth is God's creation and to shove the God creation part down people's palates if that's not your faith tradition or faith perspective, so much as give alternate names for speaking different folks' language and speaking into different folks' faith systems. So whether you call it Mother Earth, whether you believe it's God's creation, consistently, environmental stewardship is all about living a life which honors all life and is in concert with all major world religions and philosophies. A quote here from a Jewish philosopher says that environmental stewardship is a Jewish concept defined by acts of kindness performed to perfect or repair the world. That's even broader than just the earth. And then directly taken the next line down from the people that are cited on some of these slides, what's important is that we recognize that God expects us to care for this creation and that we commit to growing in our understanding and actions to do so. When I was developing this for a Christian church, my church, I was thinking about the different people on the various places along the spectrum. And I wanted to hit home the point that it doesn't really matter exactly what you believe in terms of whether man and woman, whether man collectively has dominion over the earth or not. I wanted to try and get the point across that we should be caring for the creation, whether we are in the belief system that we dominate, which doesn't happen to be my belief system, but that we are in dominion over, or whether we are more in partnership with, that either way, we still should care for this world and this earth that we have. That's what I was trying to convey prior. So you'll see then, you see the citation below, but you'll see then in the next set of slides, there are several from the Bible. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and they that dwell therein. For he hath founded it upon the seas and established it upon the floods. Also, this is Psalm 24, but then also 1 Corinthians borrows from that psalm. And biblical verses supporting the idea that God created and owns the earth. In the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth, the land shall not be sold in perpetuity, for the land is mine. With me, you are but aliens and tenants. And I want you to think about that for just a minute. You are but aliens and tenants. Tenants means you're borrowing it. You're using what is somebody else's, and you should take care of it. According to the Bible, God liked what he did. God saw everything that he had made, and indeed it was very good. And please understand, I will try and shift back and forth between he, she, mother, father. Again, understanding that part of these slides were developed for a different purpose, and I'm adjusting them for the audience that is what I call Robin's Church. God loves his creation and is in relationship with it. So if you come from a Judeo-Christian background, you're familiar with this. And if you are currently hold a Judeo-Christian perspective. So of course, the rainbow, this is the sign of the covenant I am making between me and you and every living creature, a covenant for all generations to come. I have set my rainbow in the clouds, and it will be the sign of the covenant between me and the earth. And I want to show you too, here down below is where I edited things and took out extra scriptures here. So there's one from 1 Chronicles, and then the second one, let the sea resound and all that is in it. Let the fields be jubilant and everything in them. Then the trees of the forest will sing. They will sing for joy before the Lord, for he comes to judge the earth. That's Psalm. So the first one is Chronicles and the second one is Psalm. So the idea from a Judeo-Christian perspective as well is that all creation is connected. And this starts blending into what I think other faith perspectives, not necessarily focused strictly in a Judeo-Christian perspective, but that other faith perspectives can really get behind the idea that all creation is connected. And from Genesis, then God formed man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. So not to argue whether this should be taken literally or not, if you take a step back from it, the idea is that we're all connected, right? That the dust, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, right? We are all connected to the earth. All creation is connected further to everything that has breath of life. I have given every green plant for food. And the idea that God expects us to care for creation. And God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. So dominion, I want to point out here, dominion does not mean ownership or unrestricted use. Dominion comes from a Hebrew term meaning higher on the root of a plant. It implies in our dominion that we have a dependency on everything underneath us. So if you cut the root from under a plant, the fruit above it will perish despite its superior position. So the word dominion has such a negative connotation. But I think the literal Hebrew background of that word helps strengthen the idea that it's not meant to be, as I said, overpowering ownership or unrestricted use. The Lord God took the man and put him into the garden even of Eden to till it and to keep it. And I've underlined till there, comes from the Hebrew word abad, to work, to serve, to serve the earth. You shall not pollute the land in which you live. You shall not defile the land in which you live, in which I also dwell. And I threw in some New Testament quotes here as well. The earth and its fullness are the Lord's, for everything created by God is good. You are worthy, our Lord and God, to receive glory and honor and power, for you created all things, and by your will they existed and were created. Now, shifting into other faith perspectives besides a Judeo-Christian perspective and background. A few years ago, I found this policy statement from the Friends Committee. People must choose activities, create institutions, and establish policies and laws that are beneficial to the earth and will help protect and regenerate its ecosystems. And the policy statement is the FCNL policy statement: we seek an earth restored. From our Native American brethren, a Native American proverb: treat the earth well. We do not inherit the earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children. In our every deliberation, we must consider the impact of our decisions on the next 7 generations. And a pagan Wiccan saying, the mountains are my bones, the rivers my veins, the forests are my thoughts, and the stars are my dreams. The ocean is my heart, its pounding is my pulse, the songs of the earth write the music of my soul. Just thought that was beautiful. This is long, but it's from a very, very famous philosopher, Native American, Black Elk. If you will allow, I suppose you could skip through when you're watching this back recorded, but I'm going to go ahead and read it. Great Spirit, once more behold me on earth and lean to hear my feeble voice. You lived first, and you are older than all need, older than all prayer. All things belong to you, the 2-legged, the 4-legged, the wings of the air, and all green things that live. You have set the powers of the 4 quarters of the earth to cross each other. You have made me cross the good road and road of difficulties, and where they cross, the place is holy. Day in, day out, forevermore. You are the life of things. Hey, lean to hear my feeble voice. At the center of the sacred hoop, you have said that I should make the tree to bloom with tears running. Oh, Great Spirit, my grandfather. With running eyes, I must say this tree has never bloomed. Here I stand and the tree is withered. Again, I recall the great vision you gave me. It may be that some little root of the sacred tree still lives. Nourish it then, that it may leaf and bloom and fill with singing birds. Hear me, that the people may once again find the good road and the shielding tree. Now you can think of this prayer literally, right, as talking about an actual tree, metaphorically talking about oneself, or as a combination, a crossover, which I believe has valid in terms of the intent. Crossover, because Native Americans were so tied to the earth as part of their whole spirituality and their religion. And so the metaphor that my life is like a tree, please nourish me so that I can flourish, right? But as well as a literal meaning of nourishing the trees. And it is our job to help do the things that will help the earth flourish. Our Hindu brethren, may the waters flow peacefully. May the herbs and plants grow peacefully. May all the divine powers bring unto us peace. May the rain come down in the proper time. May the earth yield plenty of corn. May the country be free from war. The Supreme Lord is peace. And from our Pacific Island brethren, Let us give thanks for the world around us. Thanks for all the creatures, stones and plants. Let us learn their lessons and seek their truths so that their path might be ours and we might live in harmony, a better life. May the earth continue to live. May the heavens above continue to live. May the rains continue to dampen the land. May the wet forest continue to grow. Then the flowers shall bloom and we people shall live again. So I totally shift gears here. Hopefully I've convinced you that this was just a very brief smattering, in no way exhaustive, right? That we are called to, no matter what our belief system, no matter what our spirituality, we are called. It is part of who we should be as we move through this life to help care for this earth. I have several more here, several more pages that are just beautiful. I'll just hit on a couple. Another Cherokee prayer. Treat the earth and all that dwell thereon with respect. Remain close to the Great Spirit. This is a Franciscan prayer. Lord, help us to maintain a reverent attitude towards nature, threatened from all sides today, in such a way that we may restore it completely to the condition of brother, sister, and to its role of usefulness to all humankind for the glory of God, the Creator. Okay, I think that's enough for that. But now I shift perspectives and we talk more specifically. This would be drawing upon the stuff that I teach in my sustainable behavior class as we go through, but sort of throwing out what are some of the specific things that we can do. So what can we do? So I've got several slides and a lot of information. I have given Robin permission to give you all access to these. Please feel free to use them. And Robin also has my email. So if you would like any more information and to chat with me by email, please feel free. So if you borrowed a friend's house, would you drink up all the water and not replace it? Cut down the trees in the yard, spread poison all around, leave piles of trash, set the thermostat on 95 when you leave? Of course not, but we do this every day to the earth. So our stewardship sometimes falls short. There's biodiversity extinction, destroying species. Sorry, I've got myself covering this up and I need to move. Destroying species through extended use for alteration of habitat. Toxicity, putting harmful chemicals into the environment. Waste accumulation, climate change, and then resource depletion, using resources beyond their natural rate. So I've got a slide on each of these and sometimes multiple slides. So first, biodiversity conservation. What are some things that you can do? Use only native landscaping. It just takes a little bit of time to find out what's actually native and planting it. In this area, for example, the Cool Cities Committee that I mentioned, 2 years ago, last year, everything was shut down because of COVID, but we had a gentleman who was planting plants for bees. It's escaping and I want to go run in my kitchen and get the seeds. The wildflowers that these, you all know. At any rate, he was planting those in Schoen Park in Glen Carbon. But back to using only native landscaping and buying in-season and local foods from grocers or farmers markets, which reduces the demand for more agricultural land. Purchasing products certified as being grown and harvested environmentally responsibly. And I've listed several different councils or alliances and have their seals there. Okay, sorry about that. I had a couple versions of this and I was wondering if I saved correctly the way that I wanted to. Continuing on, creating a wildlife sanctuary in your yard for habitat and food with trees, flowers, grasses, etc., to attract birds and butterflies and bees, pollinator flowers, pollinator gardens, they're called. Replacing habitat destroyed by building your home or business. I read recently, or I think I heard an interview with Bill Gates, I think on 60 Minutes, talking about his environmental stewardship. And they pointed out, the person who was interviewing him pointed out that he's got his own jet, and the cost of that, like to travel in that, is a bit hypocritical. And they challenged him on that. And he, for every time he flies that, he pays for offsets. So for carbon footprint offsets for what he's putting into the environment. And there are ways to do that. Experience and learn about nature through camping, hikes, canoeing, using local, state, and national parks as an example. And something that Robin and I talked about, we were hiking a couple months ago, and I had just read that morning, I had just read something from the magazine Appalachian Trail. And I was struck by it. It was the president's letter, and it was entitled Shifting Perspectives and Realities. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it really was something I hadn't thought about. And it's about social justice and the things that we take for granted, including hiking. Like, we think, oh, anybody should be able to get out, enjoy like the state, local, national parks, right? Like, those are great things to level the playing field, social justice in terms of access. And I thought it was striking what he said in his letter to the president. And actually, I'm reading down here. My glasses as this fine print. I apologize. What she said, the president and CEO, Sandra Mara. The reality is that hiking, particularly recreational day use, requires one to start out from a position of privilege. You have the privilege of having free time that is not taken up with second or third jobs or unrelenting child or elder care. You have the privilege of personal transportation and affording gas to get yourself to a trailhead. You can afford boots and day packs and have access to technology to bring up information on where to go and how to get there. And most likely, you have had the privilege of experiencing hiking from a young age with peers, and that it has been a welcoming and positive experience. This is not reflective of the reality for much of the American population. As I stated in my letter, the AT, the Appalachian Trail, is not racially or ethnically diverse. It is not accessible to people from low-income communities. It is not always a safe place for women, and it is not relevant to many people we consider to be part of the next generation. We recognize this must change. We recognize we must orient ourselves and the broader trail community to justice in its many forms: environmental, social, racial, and economic. Anyway, I thought that was very powerful, and I'm very impressed personally. Back to the slides. Consider purchasing trees for planting or in remote location, and eating less meat and more grain products. Raising animals for food is resource intensive and contributes dramatically, particularly in the large CAFOs, the confined animal farm organizations. I don't even know what the CAFO exactly stands for off the top of my head at the moment, but it's the big, huge animal production facilities, like where picture the chickens in the thousands in tiny little cages, as opposed to at least more humane, letting the chickens run around with more space, and not artificially pumping them full of hormones to fatten them up faster, and to be bigger so that they're heavier and cost more money. Even certainly doing it in a way that is environmentally responsible takes many resources, but I think I've said enough. Natural and organic use is Oh, good. Oh, I added Target today, so that tells me I did save the right ones. Natural and organic use. Purchase items made from organic or transitional cotton. Some products also made with natural dyes and no synthetic chemicals. Consider starting a vegetable or herb garden. Those are relatively easy to grow if you don't have the resources to develop a full-on vegetable garden. Using washables or reusables to reduce the use of plastic and styrofoam. So compostable, disposable items are an alternative, and using glass for food storage. I take my own containers, although they haven't really, because of COVID, it's been less the case because, first of all, I haven't been dining out many places to begin with. And then some places don't want you bringing in, like I used to always take, if I would get coffee at Casey's, which wasn't often, maybe when I'd run out, then I'd always take my own cup. And it was a reusable, it was a Casey's, the one that I had used prior. They don't want you doing that right now. All that to say is I carry around a container in the trunk of my car so that I don't get the styrofoam or the other containers that the restaurants offer. Try to use natural fertilizers and pesticides, like leaf clippings on the yard to reduce fertilizer required, and all lawn and garden products sparingly, and really read labels. And then using authorized sites to dispose of hazardous waste. Film and plastic bags aren't exactly hazardous waste, but I threw it in there to let you know that the Target, not the grocery bags, those can go to the grocery stores, the plastic grocery bags, right? I know that Schnucks has a bin, maybe Deerberg's also. Those are the grocery bags. Beyond that, the other film from different packaging and other types of plastic bags, Target, and there are other places, that's where I take mine. But then below this are actual hazardous waste items. And pretty much what I've discovered is if you do enough research, you can figure out and find a place that's not too far to recycle most anything. So TVs and appliances, now you have to pay in some cases. Like I think I paid $20 to for a place just outside of town that'll take TVs. But if you do a bit of research, very little needs to go into the landfill. That is true. Considering other uses for natural and organic use, paints can be really bad. So considering low or no VOC paints, carpet-free floors, or paying a little bit extra to get carpet that's produced sustainably. One of the gurus in the organizational sustainability movement was a CEO of a carpet company. I have my students in my sustainability class watch the TED Talk from the guy. He's sadly deceased, but his goal was to get to zero carbon emissions by 2020, and they reached it by either 2018 or 2019. Using environmentally safe cleaning products like 7th Generation, Greenworks, Myers is a brand that I've started using recently. Choosing personal care products with all natural ingredients like Tom's or Burt's Bees or affordable mineral makeup. And then consulting guides to make informed choices. So I check these websites and they are both live, they work. So consider the guide to less toxic products, and then skin deep at this cosmetics database are ways to find better products. Waste and water reduction. So reduce, reuse, and recycle are the themes here. So using fewer disposable products and using washables, meaning washable water bottles. Carry your own coffee cup, drink tap water if it's safe. And I added water reduction here because one of the quickest things you can do to conserve water is turning off the water when you're brushing teeth. Turn off the water. If you take long showers, try and cut your showers down, but especially if you're taking a long time lathering up. I know people who have really long, thick hair, it takes a while to lather and get it all in there and to rinse it out. So obviously you can't turn off the water when you're rinsing it out, but shaving, some people shave in the shower and it takes a long time, and you can do a lot of that with the water off. Choosing products with less packaging, so purchasing in larger sizes. Read online and don't print, and I'm bad about that. I prefer things in print. I prefer grading in hard copy and print. But consider online newsletters and contribution statements or bills. And I'm shifting over time to all of that. So some of this is like reminder for me for the things that I can move into and do better regarding. Stop junk mail with do not mail list. So you can register on the web with Direct Marketing Association to cut down on some of that. Using reusable shopping bags instead of paper or plastic. And I promise you, you can get into the habit to where it becomes second nature. It takes a while. If you're not used to it, just leave them in your car, leave 5 to 8 of them in your car, and you will get in the habit. So for me, I honestly, when I go anywhere, it's automatic that I say, I don't need a bag. When I go to the grocery, take my own. But like if I go to Walgreens or whatever, and I have 4 or 5 items and I can carry them, like if I don't think to bring a bag in, I say, no, I don't need a bag, and I'll go out and put them in the bag in the car. Or if it's just a couple items, it just drives me batty. So many times you see people taking these, and they'll double bag them, and then they'll take 2 bags for like 2 items that they could have carried out. And no, you don't have to have alcohol in a bag. Although I have heard it's county by county, and but that's the police. I've actually checked with the police on that. Donating computers, eyeglasses, building materials, clothing, furniture, and other unwanted items to others. So consider family and friends. Goodwill, Habitat for Humanity. They have a store where they take, oh my gosh, like if you redo your kitchen, you know, that a lot of that stuff is reusable for homes. Like in Habitat, they take all sorts of stuff, like the plates, the switch plates. They'll take those. I could go on and on. Repairing items rather than replacing them, shopping at resale stores or places like Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. Facebook Marketplace is really a sort of a haven for reusing things. Using both sides of printer paper, setting your printer to less ink, on and on I could go. The eco-friendly printing, every printer has that option where you use less ink. All right, recycling now for waste reduction. Recycling home, business, church paper, plastics, glass, metals through trash services and other community services. There's one of those bins that I've got there, the neighborhood green and yellow. I know some of my students will say, like, my apartment complex doesn't recycle. Well, for my students, again, pre-COVID, I'd say, well, save it up and bring it at school at SIUE. They recycle pretty much everything. So bring it in once or twice a week and recycle it at SIUE. So think about that. You could take it, like when you go to Target, sounds like I'm pushing Target. I prefer Target over Walmart, but when you go places, think about if there are places that have things that you can recycle, and build it into your repertoire. When you do your shopping, it's also the time when you do your recycling. Purchase and use recycled printer paper, ideas for composting food scraps, mulching lawn clippings, as I talked about earlier, using compostable plastic items made from fully biodegradable ingredients. I've got a little bag in my kitchen of lids, plastic lids, because at my daughter's school, they collect plastic lids and they'll send them someplace. It'll turn them into a bench. You know, there are many places out there that collect things to turn into other things. Greenhouse gas reduction, so using fewer fossil fuels. Driving less, simply. Consolidate trips, meaning think about your route. This is something that I do very well, is I think about my day, or I think, oh gosh, if I go there, I'm going to go right by the light bulb place, and I can take the batteries that I have that, the light bulb place in town, batteries and bulbs, I think it's called. They'll recycle batteries. If it's less than £1, you don't have to pay for it. So if you go by there frequently, you can just drop off a handful of batteries and not pay for it. Not the rechargeable kind, the regular batteries. Anyway, consolidating trips, planning your route, sharing rides, walking, biking, of course, working from home periodically. Is that the irony of all ironies? I had this from 3 or 4 years ago. And now there's COVID, right? Using public transportation if possible. Using more fuel efficient vehicles, keeping tires properly inflated, which has to do with your gas mileage. Driving slower saves gas. Buying local foods, which requires less transportation. All of these reduce greenhouse gases, carbon emissions. Using farmers markets, grow a garden, as we already said. Here are some ideas for using less electricity. Replacing incandescent lights with CFCs, or CFLs, I'm sorry, or LED bulbs. Replacing aging appliances with more energy efficient models, but then the big rub there is, but then if yours is still working, then you're replacing something that works, even though it's better with then what are you going to do with the thing that you're replacing, right? So pay to have it recycled. Track. I always ask, like Best Buy or wherever I get my stuff, what they do with it, if they recycle it, and making sure to pay for that. Using rebates, putting timers on electric water heaters. These are just a variety of ideas. Raising the indoor temperatures in the summer and reducing temperatures in the winter. There's some chart that you can do where for every degree you raise or lower in the summer or winter, how much you save, how much in terms of emissions, which also saves money. So you can use programmable thermostats. I know Aaron gives rebates for the smart thermostats. I forget what I have. I have Eco. I don't know. But they give rebates, I think up to $100. So many of the electric companies will give rebates for these sorts of things. So the incentives. Using ceiling fans, using them the correct way to it's one way in the summer and the opposite way in the winter, to pull up the air to circulate out, or to push down the the cooler air. Turning off lights, TVs, and other electronic devices when unused. Some electronic devices consume power when they're off. They're still on. You can actually tell, you can feel the cord. I'm reaching down, but you can feel the cord, or like the box for your phone charge, you can feel it and it's hot when it's plugged in. And consider using power strips to completely turn off power. Reduce hours run pool pumps, for example. Now, ways to talk about using more renewables, purchasing green power. This is becoming more and more common. One of the initiatives with Cool Cities Committee that we have sponsored for the last 5 years or so has been the solar power hours, where we help promote the community solar. So if you get more people, the cost is reduced. And they're doing it again this year. But it's becoming more and more common to be able to do this, to be able to tap in and to request green power in your electricity or your what's the word I'm trying to think of? Your heating and cooling and all of that, your bills. Drying clothes outdoors, using air dry in the dishwasher, using solar energy to create electricity or heat water, or wind or thermal, geothermal. And patronize, go to carbon neutral companies or those with meaningful plans to be so, particularly for bigger purchases. Thinking about how you're spending your money and who you're giving it to. So I've thrown a whole lot of information at you, and this isn't meant to make people feel guilty. It's honestly meant to motivate, to generate ideas maybe that you hadn't thought about, to tie it to spirituality, because if you are viewing this, you're part of the church that Robin is a part of, and so you have some aspect of spirituality. Hopefully I tapped with one of the perspectives that I reviewed to underscore and emphasize the point that it is part and parcel of pretty much anybody's faith system or spirituality sort of belief system. And it should be part and parcel of it. And then different specific ways to help think about things and to reduce the impact, the negative impact that you're having. So I adjusted this page, the environmental stewardship pledge page. So think about making a pledge to start new actions or seek new understanding of the issues. List 3 simple things that you can do in the next 2 weeks. Write down 3 more things that you can do in the next several months. And as you think about the things over the intermediate or longer term, what would make you grow? You may include gaining more knowledge of certain topics. Maybe you're not really interested in going vegan, but you might be interested in cutting out some meat or some, becoming more organic in terms of how you eat, cleaner, as it were. Name 3 things you're willing to consider in the long term. What would stretch you? Write that down, even if you don't know how you might do it. And the idea here was just to get people thinking about what are easy things that I can do. I can turn off the water while I'm brushing my teeth. I can get a couple reusable bags and start taking them and reminding myself. I can refuse a plastic bag when I don't need it. The idea is to be more mindful. Those are easy things. And then you might, all right, well, maybe I'll consider within a couple months, I'll consider 1 day a week being meat-free. And I'll consider 2 days a month carpooling or riding my bike or, whatever it is. I'm just giving you examples here. The idea is to help motivate and shift towards a more environmentally responsible way of living. And mind you, again, I don't want you to think that I am some guru on this. I mean, there are many things. I'm not a vegetarian. I should be. I'm moving always towards that. It's a little bit harder to get my kids on board. But I'm constantly moving towards that and trying to shift away from meat products, but I don't, and I'm not. And I'm telling you that just because I don't want you to think that I'm sitting on my end, shaking a proverbial stick. Again, it was more meant to be motivational and hopefully a little bit inspirational. And I thank you for having me and taking time out of your day to engage and to watch this. I hope it was of value.
For our announcements today, here are our announcements. Thank you all for coming, who came out yesterday to our work day to help beautify the church grounds. Please think about ways that you can volunteer your time and talent to help the church. We need everyone to pull their weight, whatever they can do. Every minute or hour that you can donate will help the church, and it is gratefully and graciously appreciated. Please consider how you can share your time and talent with us. Stewardship, stewardship, stewardship. What else is new? It's a constant battle. But we are beginning our 2021 for 2021-22 year stewardship campaign with a much broader definition of what is stewardship. We are asking people to not only donate monetarily, but also pledge to work on a project or several projects, if you can, for the church. We are developing a series of items, both to support the church building and grounds, as well as community outreach activities for which people can volunteer their time. We're asking people to pledge some time, any amount of time, to these projects. Our church needs to get our face out there, and we need to find a way to grow in our mission. look out in the coming weeks for information on stewardship and how you can do your part. So expect an email or letters in the mail from us regarding that. We are putting together a pandemic task force to start looking at how we can safely return to face-to-face services. I have asked a few people, but if there's anybody that is interested in helping me and helping the pandemic team and the board to come up with a plan for when we can return to face-to-face services, we would greatly appreciate your help. So please let me know. You can reach out to me on UU Friends or through Messenger, Facebook Messenger, or you can email me directly, robinberkeley@yahoo.com. And so please send me an email and let me know if you're willing to help us with the pandemic task force. Please contact the church office if you have an event or an announcement that you would like us to share via our weekly Church This Week email. If you're interested in receiving our weekly email, please send your contact details to church@firstuualton.org. And remember to join us next week for our virtual service here on YouTube. And now, if you have a lit chalice or candle near you, I invite you to join me in extinguishing your chalice. The light of truth and meaning cannot be put out. We are keepers of this flame until we meet again. Smell of lavender is beautiful. Our closing words are from reading number 682 in the Gray Hymnal, which is actually a Navajo Indian Nation prayer. Beauty is before me, and beauty is behind me. Above me and below me hovers the beautiful. I am surrounded by it. I am immersed in it. In my youth, I am aware of it. And in old age, I shall walk quietly the beautiful trail. In beauty, it is begun. In beauty, it is ended. Amen and blessed be. And thank you. Happy Earth Day upcoming. And I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful week. Thank you.